Okay, hello everyone, and we're here this afternoon to start our webinar, and I have a very large number coming on board today, so I just want to allow a couple of seconds for everyone to join us, and then we will have an action-packed hour. Okay, everyone's coming through very quickly, so I'm not going to stand on ceremony, and I'm going to launch straight into it now. So today, we have Deirdre Brennan with us from Digital Outputs, and she's going to talk to us about crafting your e-commerce strategy. It's going to be as interactive as Deirdre can possibly make it, so it's more of a workshop style than just purely making a presentation to you. So will you please make sure from the beginning that you're getting any questions for clarification or interaction into the chat. And of course, there'll be an opportunity at the end for all of us to recap. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'd like to welcome Deirdre. So Deirdre, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks very much, Emer. Okay, we've quite a lot of ground to cover today, but just before we get kicked off, by way of introduction, as Emer said, my name is Deirdre. We have a small family business called Digital Outputs. At the moment, the vast majority of my work is business advice, so taking people through their options for e-commerce, giving them advice on digital strategy, and I work a lot with the local enterprise office, taking people through the trading online voucher scheme. My background is in IT. I have a master's in digital marketing strategy, and today we're going to focus on crafting e-commerce strategy. So I'm hoping to make it as practical as possible, and it'll cover the entire spectrum of what's required to get trading online. So without further ado, we'll kick off. Okay, so first of all, e-commerce is electronic commerce, and just by way of definition, it's the process of buying or selling your products over an electronic medium or through the internet or digital tools. Okay, and that's quite a broad definition. And as such, there are quite a number of possible ways that you can access or engage in e-commerce. And I'm going to take you through 5 methods that you might use. The first method that I'll outline today is just the really basic method. It will be using direct message, email, WhatsApp, etc., setting up a basic payment method through PayPal, and just explaining a few of the pros and cons around that process. Okay. Next, we'll cover social media, setting up a social media shop through Facebook or Instagram. Third is actually setting up space on a marketplace. And for the purposes of today, we're going to cover the Etsy marketplace, but I'll give you the details on that when we get to it. A fourth option would be adding a payment system to your existing website. So depending on what your situation is, that might be an option for you. And then lastly, we're going to talk through what you would need to do in order to create an online shop. There are various platforms that I'm going to just overview for you there. Okay, so basically in a nutshell, there's more than one way that you can do e-commerce, and a website might not always be the best option for you, maybe immediately, or it could be an option for you later on that you can work up to. Okay. How to do e-commerce well, it is one simple rule, and that is put your customer at the center of all of the process. So how are you going to communicate with them? Make the transaction for your customer as simple and user-friendly as possible, whether that's on social media or through your website. Your customer and their journey has to be at the center of everything that you do. Just a little review on our economy at the minute, and there's kind of 2 sections to this aspect here, but what is e-commerce actually worth? In Ireland, our digital economy this year is reported to be worth 16 billion, generally speaking, about 6% of GDP. For the first time ever, e-commerce has actually surpassed face-to-face sales, and again, for obvious reasons, this year is kind of an outlier on that front. But pre-COVID, 23% of SMEs in Ireland were fully engaged with e-commerce, and 70% of online sales were going to overseas markets. So fairly stark statistics. And then since March and the shutdown, 75% of SMEs have been trying to get online or trying to consider ways that they can trade remotely or through e-commerce. So there has been a massive shift this year, and at the moment, There is huge solidarity out there for buying Irish. So from a Google Trends point of view, or actual customer sales, Irish customers are actively seeking out Irish businesses that they can support. Reasons that, so at the moment, actually, the recent reports would say that that figure for overseas market sales has now dropped to 47%. So Irish people are actively trying to engage and find Irish-based businesses that they can buy remotely from. So it's never been more important to get online. And reasons why people would give for trusting Irish businesses would be that they are seen to be more reliable and more trustworthy. Now, this is seen to be a temporary. We're not actually sure if this is going to cause permanent buying behavior. Customers would report being very eager to get back in store when the pandemic passes. And potentially this is a temporary shift. Other influencers that might inform decisions would be availability, product and variety, or price point. But I would hope that after the pandemic, a lot of people will have availed of the supports to engage meaningfully in e-commerce, and they'll be able to offer wider variety to the Irish market, and we'll be able to keep some of that money in our local economy over the long term. Businesses who engage effectively in e-commerce, meaning SEO, advertising, promotion, communication, etc., they would report an 85% increase in inquiries, 21% increase in sales, 60% of them would report an increase in overseas inquiries. And these metrics are all taken from the government report from Trading Online with the local enterprise office. So it's over a 2-year period. This is what's possible to grow your e-commerce business to. And then lastly, the starkest of all the metrics is 2% of the people who visit your website will either make a purchase on site or will make an inquiry that will lead to a sale. And as such, your communication strategy and promotion is vital for getting traffic and high interest or high quality traffic through to your website. Okay. Before we kick off with the possible methods that you might engage, I'm going to bust some myths that would be common out there. So you need an e-commerce website to trade online, or you need a website to do e-commerce, and that is not true. There's more than one way that you can engage effectively in e-commerce, and it just depends on your situation, what your resources are, what suits your customers best, and what your budget might be. Next, we have just get online fast, and particularly when choosing a website platform, this can be a mistake, and very often we let the urgent crowd out the important. And what you need to do, I advise a lot of people, and even this year alone, in the space of 6 months, they chose a platform, got online very, very quickly, and as a result have made a mistake. That platform doesn't suit exactly what they need, or whatever e-commerce tools they need to use just 6 months later aren't available, and they find themselves having to shift or pivot to another platform. So if urgency is a factor for you, which it very well may be, potentially hold fire on setting up an e-commerce website and choose direct message, social media, or marketplace first before you make that decision, unless you have the time to weigh the costs and strategy, etc. well. Okay, myth number 3, and this is probably the most common that I would come across. E-commerce is easy and it's free. And this is not the case. You will need to put in concerted effort to drive awareness and promote your products and your e-commerce space. So it is going to require ongoing effort. If you think about it, you would never open up a shop on a back street and just not do anything about it, or not tell your customers. So this is not a statement of fact. If you build it, they will not come. You will need to bring them to it. Okay, so think about your customer journey. Where are they? Who are they? How can you communicate with them? And what channels or avenues will you need in order to meet them there? Okay, so your journey, before you actually choose what e-commerce platform is appropriate for you. I love this image. It's from social media, and generally the question that goes with it is, how deep is the mud? And it actually depends on who you ask. So there is no one size fits all solution. What works well for you or for somebody else? what works well for you may not work well for somebody else, and vice versa. Okay, so just be careful of broad sweeping statements like, if you're on Instagram, it's going to be a success, or if you spend 2 hours doing a certain activity a week, you're going to see immediate payback on it. Okay, so your activity and your strategy should be centered on what your needs are, and also actually where your target markets are. There isn't a one size fits all. What takes you maybe 20 minutes might take somebody else 5 minutes, and vice versa. So think about what is sustainable for you, or what platform or method is sustainable for you to engage with. And then actually think about where your audience are and what their needs are. So for example, if you have a situation where you've limited product listing and your audience or your customers might be very aware or familiar with your products, you could choose direct message or email as your method of e-commerce. But if you need to drive awareness or drive recognition and consideration, potentially either a marketplace or an e-commerce website should be something that you should consider. Okay, and again, just to emphasize, you need to simplify the customer journey and work to improve that experience for them. And that will translate into positive customer experience and digital word of mouth. So just be strategic in how you engage and develop your strategy around your customer and actually your own capacity. So this is the brain, Jeff, the brain behind Amazon, and he would say, if you build a great experience, customers will tell each other about it, and that's a very powerful thing. So from a customer journey point of view, you are going to have, this is what's called the sales funnel. So you want to think about building your brand awareness, which is the top level in pink. And you have a number of methods that you have available to you to do that. So your search or organic paid, you've email, you've direct message, you've social media, or you've PR. So they're the channels that you can use to drive your awareness. As you drive awareness, you will drive your customers through to consideration stage. And then as they consider the options available to them, they'll go ahead and make a purchase on your site. So if you work to improve or make that process or journey as easy as possible for your customers, they will ideally become brand advocates. You'll drive traffic through the funnel, and they will hopefully share your products or services and become a little ambassador. What you do need to think about is measuring or watching what actually matters. And if you look at this funnel, 2/3 of the activity there, if you're only watching leads and sales, you're missing out on 2/3 of the action or activity that might be taking place. So you want to think about website traffic or metrics or clicks or engagements, and that will show you that your customers are aware and potentially considering your products or services. Okay. And again, if you drive your brand loyalty, they'll become advocates, and it will serve to improve your e-commerce performance. All right. As we step into the space, what you will need to consider for e-commerce, and there's generally 4 things that you'll have to think about. You'll have to develop your product catalog. So that's a way that your customers can view or select your products. You'll have to think about your ordering system. So collect the necessary details, issue order numbers, collect shipping details, etc. You'll need to collect payment, and that can be cash on delivery, it can be bank transfer, or digital payment methods. And lastly, then it will be your shipping. So they can collect, you can deliver, or you can ship it to them. So I'm going to outline the 5 options or methods that you can use to get online. So the most basic option, if your customers are aware of your product listing, if they're very familiar with your products, if you've a limited product offering, potentially this might be an option that you can consider if you're not ready to step into the e-commerce space. So direct message or message via social media might be an option for you. Your customers place the order through message or email. You process the order, potentially gather any additional details that you might need, generate an order number, and confirm those details with the customer. You'll want to implement your payment method. And for the purposes of today, I'm going to take you through how you do that with PayPal if you have a PayPal business account. And you have a couple of ways that you can do that through PayPal, but do bear in mind that there is a percentage fee applied by PayPal themselves. So you can request a payment directly through email, or you can create a PayPal Pay Me Now button. And I'll show you how to do that in the next slide. And then lastly, you need to think about your shipping considerations. Okay, so for the purposes of PayPal, very, very useful tool. You can integrate it if you choose to sell through social media, or you can do it directly via link through email, etc. So as you log into your PayPal account, you need to make sure that you're set up as a business account. This will be the window that you see first. And you can see that if you click on the tools option and you come down to all tools, you will get this window, and you can see where the green arrow is pointing to you there. You've got PayPal buttons that you can create. So once you click on that option, you can really simply create a Pay Now option. And once you select Pay Now, you can see that there are a number of steps that you can take to define your button. So the button type for this example is Pay Now. The item name is a hat. You have an optional item ID there that you can add. And the price structure then you can set. Once you go through that process, you can actually copy the code and insert that into your website, or you can copy a link and add it to either an email and email your customer directly, or through a product listing on your Facebook page. So it's very, very useful to know that this option is there, and it's quite straightforward to set up. You can see that there's customized button options there, so you can do variables and variable prices. But I will say that if you adjust any of those customized options, you won't be able to email the link directly. You'll have to insert that option into your website. Okay, so just be aware of that. But a really, really useful payment method, and you can use it as a bare bones option, or also integrate it into your e-commerce website if that's what you'll need to do. Okay, so the pros and cons then to this method. The pros, it's very fast and easy to set up. There are no startup costs at all, and there are low ongoing costs associated with it. So your PayPal transaction fee ultimately is the only cost that you're going to pay out there. The cons then, it's very labor intensive. So you're manually handling or organizing all of the orders and shipping, and it can be time consuming. Responding to queries or order management or emails from your customers can also be time consuming. I will say before we move on that option, because it's a person-to-person interaction, very often that's quite positive for your customers. They enjoy that. It's not just dealing with the machine remotely. So they do, that is a big plus for engaging brand loyalty and awareness. The next option here I'm going to go through is your Facebook or Instagram shop. Now, I will say you do need a Facebook page set up, and you do need to do some administration on the back end to link your business suite account with your Facebook page. So there is a little bit of administration in the background, but it is relatively straightforward to get that set up. Once you do, you can either import your product catalog from an existing website, or you can upload the option. And if you've no website, you can upload your catalog. Facebook are rolling out a fully contained e-commerce solution at the moment. It's only available in the US, but you can still add a shop to an Irish store, upload your product catalogs, and add your PayPal link to the products and take your payment directly through to your PayPal account. But you will need to add your product details, your imagery, everything the customer will need to view the product needs to be uploaded to your Facebook store. And then when they go through to pay, they're taken directly to your PayPal account, and you can manage your shipping address, etc. From there. So you'll need to include your photos, your description, and again, gives your customer as much information as possible so that they can make an informed decision. Add your product details, any specific materials, metrics, size, color, shape, whatever they need. List your delivery options, and again, you'll need to potentially consider that on shipping in PayPal, and you can set that up in that business center there as well. And any other details that might be relevant or useful to your customer. And then, as I previously covered, the PayPal button option is a viable payment method that you can integrate there. So it's a little bit to it, But again, quite straightforward once you know how. That PayPal option, if you're doing complicated shipping methods, like if there's multiples that people can order, you can actually set shipping costs per weight. And again, it's in that business tools section. It's very straightforward to set up. So the pros and cons then for this option will be relatively straightforward to get started, no startup costs or ongoing costs, if any, are very, very low. You benefit from your existing audiences on Facebook. So if you have a strong social following, you can set that up and just reach your targets or your audience directly from where they're at. And then you have other tools like advertising and ads, etc., that you can use. It's easy to manage the shop on both Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so it's a great option if you know a web space isn't for you. Developing your catalog, and now for any of the e-commerce options, developing your catalog is going to take some time, and it can be kind of daunting, but it's necessary. It's something you just have to get through. Potentially not all of your products or all products are suited to sales on social media platforms, and that may or may not be relevant. Sometimes that's related to product category or type, sometimes it's price point. And also, unfortunately, if you step into social media, there are the appearance or the presence of trolls, and that's just, they're a necessary evil that we need to deal with in the world. I would say don't engage, shut them down as quickly as possible, tell them to direct message and you'll handle their process, but don't let them hold you back either. Don't be fearful of that. So those are the two kind of starter methods that you might use. And again, if you want to step into the space or just get started and you need to do that in a hurry, there are two strong options that you can consider. So next, we're going to just take it through to e-commerce solutions in general. So you have a lot of potential platforms or methods that you can use or choose from. It depends on what you need and what your resources and what your situation is. Okay, so don't don't let the urgent take over what's important. So if you need to get online in a hurry, potentially your marketplace might be the place to start, and you can get started there, get some revenue coming in, and you can give your web space or your online shop due consideration over time. So think about your immediate needs, but also think about what you might need into the future. Now, what we're going to do here is focus on marketplace first. So we'll be talking about Etsy. Etsy is just for design and crafters. It's a horizontal marketplace, which means that you've got, you specialize in one sector. So it's vintage, design and craft, and only that. Now, Amazon and eBay would also be considered marketplaces, but you can buy any number of anything on those platforms. So Etsy is specific to a niche. And again, strict rules apply if you want to trade in that space. So it has to be handmade, craft, vintage, etc. So your marketplace, the real difference between a marketplace and an e-commerce store is when you engage in a marketplace, you set up an account with them. So you've got 2 million sellers in Etsy, and then you've also got 33 million buyers. That's what they report to have on the platform. One of the major advantages is that you open yourself up to a wider international audience when you step into that space. So it can be a very considerable option for you to engage with. And it's relatively low cost to get started and very easy. They do also offer Etsy Pattern, which is their e-commerce solution. So you can build your e-commerce shop on a web space with them as well. So to be standard Etsy user, you just set up your account and you upload your product listing. And you can also then choose with Etsy to set up your e-commerce website. You get 30 days free trial there, and it's $15 per month if you wanted to go with Pattern as an option. The Etsy marketplace fee structure can be considerable. They have a number of different fees or listings. So you've got 20-cent fee to list every product that you upload. There are transaction fees associated as well. So you have 5% transaction fees applied, which is a consideration. You also have a payment processing fee, and that tends to be 3% plus 20 cents per transaction. You can opt in for a subscription. It's called Etsy Plus, and that's €10 per month or dollars per month, and it will give you additional features, listing credits, customization options. But for the most part, you set up your account, you upload your products, and you're immediately ready to sell in that space. You can run advertising there too. Now, what I will say from a pros and cons point of view, Etsy is very, very easy to get started, and it may be a good go-to place just initially. There's very low costs associated from the startup point of view, but there is considerable ongoing costs, both for listing and transaction payment options. There is potential, and again, I emphasize that, potential access to a large international audience. So you will still need to strategize. It's a very, very competitive space, busy marketplace. You'll need to strategize as to how you're going to reach your customers in that space. Even though there are 33 million of them, you still need to set yourself apart from the 2 million other retailers, okay? And that brings us to our cons. So you've got limited availability of creative controls, functionality, design, or e-commerce. Establishing your brand can be tricky with the Etsy account. The costs can mount up depending on your sales, etc. But it's one to keep an eye on, and it is a very competitive space. So it depends on your price point getting in there. It's quite a competitive space to be there, so you do need to distinguish yourself and set yourself apart from the crowd. And in general, on marketplaces, audiences tend to build a relationship with the platform itself, the marketplace itself, and not the individual buyers. So building or driving brand loyalty is difficult. Anything I've bought on Amazon, I don't even know the sellers that I'm buying it from. I just know that I get it there. So that's one of the considerations from a brand establishment point of view. It may be a good place to start, but not necessarily somewhere to stay in the long term. The next method will be our web-based, fully hosted platforms. So we're getting more into an e-commerce shop website at this point. And I'm going to review 3 major platforms that you should consider if you're thinking of stepping into this space. Everybody always asks which platform is best. Definitely think about your immediate needs, but also what you might need into the future. If you pick a cheap and easy platform, the additional e-commerce tools that you might use or might be available will not necessarily be available to you in that space. So just make sure you choose carefully. But before we get to the platform overview, what you will need to get set up with a website will be your domain name or web address. That's generally a yearly fee. For a .ie or .com domain at the moment, it's $5.99. And for the second year, it will jump then to €25 per year. But that's what your web address will come in at. Next, you need to consider your hosting. So it's a physical space online where you, for all the world, park your website. You can arrange that yourself if you go for a hosted platform. But if it's a web-based subscription service, they will actually take care of that for you. You'll need a great design for your website, and you'll need to think about good user experience and navigation, etc. Establish the brand and upload your content, etc. And then your security certificate will also be something that you need to consider. And generally, that's anywhere from €10 to €30 per year. But in basic terms, those are the aspects that you need to get trading through your e-commerce space. So I'm going to review 2 web-based, fully hosted platforms that you might think about, and then 1 which can be either, but it's a very popular solution for e-commerce, etc. So the first space that we're going to have a look at is called Squarespace. It's a subscription-based web service. The basic e-commerce package with this platform is €24 per month. You have a free trial that's 2 weeks. You can upload unlimited products. So there's unlimited catalogs available to you there. It's SEO ready, although you will need to integrate that into the back end of your website. You can build its built-in content management system, and their support is excellent. It's dedicated support. So your subscription will include your hosting. So €26 a month will cover hosting costs. Your security certificate is also included in that cost. This solution will reduce the need for ongoing technical maintenance and backups, etc. So it's labor, it reduces the need for labor, etc. And it has some limited e-commerce and marketing tools available on the site. So ultimately that's what you're getting for your I think it's actually €24 a month, I think is what it's coming out, and that's for a yearly subscription. And then you've an advanced option that's actually 76 maybe. I must double check that. Pros and cons to this method. Potentially it's workable as a DIY solution, although there will be a considerable learning curve with that. It reduces the need for ongoing maintenance, which will reduce the cost for you. It's a really lovely platform, really great design and customization available for you. And there are no transaction fees applied by the platform themselves, although your payment method will involve some fee and some cost. Cons to this kind of platform then, developing and organizing your catalog is just going to take some time. You will want to just organize yourself, potentially set up a spreadsheet. Generally speaking, you can download a template that will help you get organized for that. You'll need to upload your product imagery, etc. So there can be a considerable time scale, basically just in generating your catalog and getting the information that you need together. For the DIY option, if you were to consider this, you need like significant IT skills and awareness of e-commerce. So there will be significant learning involved, and the time frame can be more time consuming than you might expect. But definitely very cost effective and very stylish options, so definitely worth considering. For this version, there are some e-commerce tools available, but they're a limited offering. You can't do as much as our next platform. So if you want to integrate other tools or cart abandonment or cross-selling or upselling, it can be a little more cumbersome to engage in that level. Next, Shopify is potentially a platform that you're all very, very aware of. It's quite successful. It's after growing from almost a zero customer base to be a major contender in the market at the moment. It's solely for retailers, and they offer an omni-channel integrated solution. So they will track your stock potentially both in store and through your online catalog. Really, really great platform. The pricing, it's a tiered subscription pricing structure. So you sign up for the basic commerce package is $29 a month. They had, in response to COVID, they had a 90-day free trial, which was great. It was almost 3 months, and that's actually expired. So it's back down to your 14-day free trial, which is unfortunate, but very, very easy platform to navigate. You can upload unlimited products. Again, it ticks the box for SEO. You can do your content management, and again, their support is dedicated and very, very good. Likewise with Squarespace, your hosting is included, as is your security certificate. And it also reduces the need for ongoing technical maintenance, etc. It's a really, really good option if you want to get online quickly, but you do need the awareness and the skills to implement everything that you need through the back end. If you don't use Shopify's payment method, if you integrate PayPal or Stripe on the store, there will be transaction fees applied. So that's just something to bear in mind, but they offer, Shopify offer a payment. And if you choose to use that, there are no additional fees applied there. So the pros for this platform, you have a wide variety of e-commerce and marketing tools and omni-channel sales handling. So like the market leader basically in all things e-commerce. So really, really good if you have voluminous product listings, just a really good option for you if that's something that you need to consider. It has the potential for a DIY option, but again, the learning curve can be steep. It's a very scalable solution. So you can start small and grow or add unlimited catalog listings if you need to. And again, also you've this reduced maintenance costs or efforts required. So you don't need to worry about backups or security or updates, etc. They handle all of that for you. The cons then for this option, the possible transaction fees can be considerable because you'll pay both Shopify and your payment method. So that can mount up. If you want to integrate any additional functionality or apps on to the space, that will cost. And generally speaking, it's a monthly subscription-based cost. So that is something that you might need to consider. Again, developing, organizing, managing your catalog will take time, but it's a worthwhile investment, obviously. And then for DIY, similarly to your Squarespace, you do need IT skills, you need awareness of the e-commerce space and the considerations that you need to think about. But very, very popular option at the moment, quite quick to get started on e-commerce, and then you can scale it for whatever your needs might be. The third platform then that I'd like to cover is your WooCommerce for WordPress. So if you're in a situation where you have an existing site and it's based on the WordPress platform, you can integrate a plugin called WooCommerce, which will allow you to just add an e-commerce store to your existing website, or you can set up a website from scratch. This is a very popular choice. Huge functionality, highly customizable. I think 30% of the market share globally and 20% of Fortune 500 companies are on the WordPress platform. It's open source, which means it's free, which is great, but there isn't any trial. So setting up some of the considerations you need to think about, it can be more costly and time consuming to get set up. You can upload unlimited products. Again, it's okay for SEO, but you'll need to integrate that on the back end. And you have your content management system. The one consideration that differs from the online platform options are your support community is community-based. So it's how-to documents, it's forums, it's knowledge base articles, etc. So you have to search for answers or help if you need it. And generally speaking, you will need to engage a web developer or a web supplier to do to finish this kind of project for you. Again, unlimited catalog products, very scalable. It's easy-ish to manage, but you will need some training and upskilling. And there's no trial or free trial version or dedicated support. So that might be something that you need to think about. So the pros and cons. WooCommerce WordPress is great. There's thousands of templates, very functional, like very user-friendly. It will work on every platform, on every mobile device, etc. Highly customizable and really powerful tools for e-commerce and analytics and tracking and measuring, etc. It's a very scalable option for you. The extra functionality, the plugins, means that if you just want to set up your website with a very limited store initially, you can do that on WordPress. And if you think at a future time you'd like to add in like customized design where people might design their own product, or additional functionality, members areas, paywalls, etc. You have the option with WordPress. So very versatile and useful platform, really good e-commerce tools available. Some of them are within WooCommerce itself, and others are available through additional plugins, etc. So it's a really strong option for you to consider if the website, building a web page, is the option that you think is right for you. The cons then for this version, it's more costly and time consuming to get set up on this kind of platform. You will need to engage with a supplier to get you started. You'll need to organize your own hosting, etc. There is the online hosted option through WordPress.com, but it can be a little more complex a system to get set up on. You do have ongoing maintenance costs, so updates, security updates, site backups, etc. So all of that will be either, a time investment on your part, or a cost or a budget investment on an ongoing basis. and there is a high learning curve. If you're going to go DIY, I wouldn't recommend it. You will need to engage a supplier if you're considering WordPress, but you can edit your catalog from the back end, add products or delete products. You can link them, you can cross-sell, you can upsell, you can feature products. So lots and lots of really great e-commerce tools. Cart abandonment, you can follow up people with emails, etc. And you can set up user accounts. So lastly, then the final slide I have here is just regarding the supports that you'll have available through the local enterprise office. So just to bear in mind, there is this what's called a trading online voucher scheme available with your Leo, and this scheme has actually been available for the last maybe 7 years. It was always a matched funding, a 50-50 matched funding voucher. But in response to COVID, they realized people didn't have the 50 to contribute towards the scheme, so they've redefined it. You still have 2,500 available to you, but you only need to contribute 10% at the moment. And in order to gain your 2,500, that contribution comes down to €277. Now, it is specific to trading online. If you feel that developing an e-commerce website is the space that you want to get into, definitely contact your local enterprise office. There are terms and conditions with the scheme. So you need to be limited or no trading presence, employ 10 people or less. You're trading a minimum of 6 months, and you need to be located within the county boundary of the local enterprise office that you're applying through. Your project obviously needs to be e-commerce based, so it's all around transactions online and building your website, but also eligible expenses include digital marketing strategy, SEO, advertising, product photography, so very, very versatile. And now it has been heavily subscribed over the last 8 months, so funding has exhausted and been extended, etc. So it's going to continue with these new terms for the foreseeable future, but definitely worth checking out if your e-commerce website is something that you want to develop. This is a great support available to you. And if you need to talk to somebody who's informed or knowledgeable, you can also apply for mentoring through the local enterprise office, and they'll have an expert on their mentoring panel who will sit with you for an hour and a half to 2 hours and give you advice on what your options might be, or what your considerations should be. Okay.
Deirdre, thank you so much for that. I'd like to take up on what you were saying there about the trading online vouchers.
Yeah.
A lot of our clients have them in the back of their heads, and an awful lot of them have actually utilised them, which is great. You can actually approach your local enterprise office to use it a second time. So if you had one a number of years ago, you can go again. And I think it's really important to reiterate that the local enterprise offices are continuing this scheme, and they are keen to hear from you. And really, with 90% of the funding available for the project, I really think that people should give it consideration. So I know they're keen to hear from craft and design enterprises, so please do utilise that possibility. It's a really good offer.
It's a great
Deirdre, that was superb. I think all of our audience would like you to be sitting in their studio or sitting beside them in their office. I tell you, I'd love to just transplant your brain and take it with me, but unfortunately I can't do that. But your expertise is just really, really super, and you have a great empathy because you have your own family business yourself.
Yeah.
You have an IT background, and then you have loads of icing on the cake, which is digital marketing. So really, really, really super.
Great.
I have a question to kick us off, right?
Yeah.
You were saying that Shopify have their own payment system, okay? And this is probably a naive question, but how good is it, say, for someone in craft enterprise, as opposed to bringing your PayPal system with you onto Shopify's system? I mean,
yeah.
Explain that, please. Is it worth paying?
Well, when you implement, if you choose to implement the Shopify payment system, that's included in your subscription. But if you integrate your PayPal or Stripe, they will charge you transaction fees. So that's what you need to consider. You can use PayPal and that's fine, but you'll be paying twice, if you understand me, because you pay your depending on where your orders are coming from, it can vary from 2.9% to 3.5, plus I think maybe 20 cents per transaction. So that goes to PayPal directly, and then actually you'll have to pay a transaction fee to Shopify as well.
Okay, yeah.
Now you can integrate a number of checkout options,
yes.
and if people choose to do directly from Shopify, you're not paying your transaction fee there. The advantage, actually the only real considerable advantage or disadvantage from a PayPal point of view, is that people have to leave your platform in order to go and pay on PayPal, and then they're returned. And from a user, I don't mind that. I've used PayPal for years because it's secure and it's been available for a long time. So I don't mind that process, but for some people that just bugs them, so they wouldn't love that aspect.
Okay, so quickly, what are the main things to consider when making this decision?
Well, cost would be, for me, cost and usability predominantly. So, and again, security. If you choose a payment system, they manage the security, and you don't have the headache of that, or credit card details or GDPR. So those are the three main factors. So if you want to save on transaction costs, you would go with the Shopify payment method.
Okay.
If you have a PayPal account and you're familiar with that, then you can stay with that, but there will be additional fees.
Okay, just quickly, without getting nerdy about this, just to tease that out.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to take advantage of smaller transaction fees? What would be the logic?
Sorry, when I say transaction fee, I mean it's either PayPal or Shopify will take a measure. They'll take a bite out of what your transaction is. So yes, like 2% will go to that.
Yeah, but as a package, what would be the justifiable argument for not going with their package? What would be my business reasons for not going with the package if it's cheaper?
For not going with Shopify?
Yeah.
There mightn't be one. You may not. It's just offering choice for people. Yeah.
Okay.
Now some countries don't have, the services that they arrange vary, and they roll them out from country to country. So it was a case in the past that Shopify payment methods weren't available in Ireland, and then you had no choice but to integrate another payment. Apple Pay is also another one that people will just swipe. So it's ease of use and what people might be familiar with or what they might favor. So there are a number of factors that might play into it, but from a retailer point of view, I'd be thinking cost and anything that you can do to increase the likelihood that
and I'd be thinking the
will click the button.
Yeah, my same would be, I mean, for our clients, I would be just if there are other reasons that outweigh the costs, then maybe, but costs would be my primary.
Generally that's the bottom line.
Yeah. I just try to save our craft retailers as much money as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one here. Okay, this lady has a Shopify website, and would you recommend being on Etsy as well?
Yes, I would, because it's relatively easy to set up, and it is another marketplace that you can be present in, but you just bear in mind those additional costs. It's a very, very competitive space. And again, like I said, people will go with the platform as opposed to the individual brand or business. But it's another channel or avenue that you can reach a potential market base on. But you will need to consider potentially your strategy around that, driving awareness of you being in that space, and advertising or promotion. So it's not going to hurt, because it's very little from a cost point of view or an effort point of view to get onto the platform. It's just driving awareness and traffic to the platform is what you might need to consider or think about.
Okay, that's very good. We've some information here. This is from Dan. Dan's always great at giving solid, good information. Okay, he's saying that builtwith.com is a good tool to see what tools other websites are using, and it's very useful for small business. Would you agree?
Yeah. Now I have a number of tools that I would like anytime I'm conducting customer research. There's various kind of tools that you can use. Predominantly I use SEMrush, but there's lots of ways that you can figure out. You can actually view the source code and see exactly what platform a website has been built on. So I would tend to use my own methods for that, but For the layperson as such, yeah, builtwith.com is a great option.
Okay. He's also telling us that PayPal business accounts are very easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
PayPal's great. Apart from the transaction fee, very, very versatile, very easy. You can request payments directly. You can integrate it everywhere. So as long as you can stomach the transaction fee and potentially the usability aspect. But for the likes of your Facebook shops, etc., really, really, really good option or solution to accept your payments directly there. If you're not ready to get into an e-commerce web space yet, definitely something to consider. Yeah.
Okay, we have a bit of action learning here. I love the things that crafts people do. They're so sort of innovative, and let's get there. But hold on a second. I have Anne Harrington. She set up her Shopify website before Bloom last year.
Okay.
And she read their online instructions and went from there. Okay. It took a few weeks, but I managed it okay. Without knowing any coding, I find it easy to update as necessary, and there's peace of mind that they cover security, etc. She thinks today's wonderful. But would you agree with that? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Now again, very scalable for lower product catalogs. They have the tiered subscription service. So their basic is, I think, $29 a month, and then it jumps to maybe $79, and then nearly, can't remember if it's, I think it's nearly $299 then for the advanced. And you get reduced fees, you get extra functionality, more user sign-ins, etc. for those scaled options. So kind of weigh and measure. They generally have the pricing structure breakdown, but you don't have the headache of ongoing maintenance. You don't have security. It's very easy. Once you get used to the platform and the layout, their tools, their support is excellent. So purely for e-commerce and retail, it's a really, really strong solution. And if you, like even from terms of what we were saying about bricks and mortar stores opening and customers really longing to get back into that space, they have their omni-channel stock tracking. So you can actually check out in your shop, and it will deduct your stock from your online store as well. So that can reduce a huge headache if that is relevant for you. So really, really good option. And the basic package generally, like it's a great one just to get started on. So it's not very costly. From an SEO and digital strategy point of view, you might need to consider just implementing some of that. So upskill your tools in on-site SEO or your skills in on-site SEO. But again, it's once you know where to go, their help functions are great. But yeah, it's a really, really strong option.
Okay, and Anne has taken this then to the next stage. She's just linked her Shopify catalog to her Instagram account to make it shoppable.
Yes, which is excellent, because if you have a captive audience already engaged in your social media, you can integrate. It's quite a straightforward process. Well, straightforward enough to link your online catalog. It'll import it into Catalog Manager on your social platforms, and when they can view all the catalog details, it'll be updated directly, and when you click the purchase, it'll take you straight through to that particular product on your website. So really, really strong feature. Now, do bear in mind that Facebook are going to be rolling out their own e-commerce solution. So they're trying to get into the market to rival Amazon. So it'll be a self-contained where all of the processing and payments, etc., will take place on Facebook. So potentially functionality may vary over time as they roll out those features. But at the moment, it's brilliant the way you can integrate your website directly through to the social channels.
Good.
Yeah.
We've another little bit of information here. If you have a limited number of items in your catalog, consider blogger.com and PayPal buttons. That's a fair enough point. Blogger.com is no charge, and Blogger permits use of your own domain.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go back here. Do you know of any marketplace platforms based in other countries that are very popular in those countries, especially in larger European cities, like not on the high street in the UK?
To be honest, I don't. Etsy would be predominantly the most popular as such, because it's been around a long time and it's dedicated to the particular space. There are other options available, but I'm not informed enough to know what they might be.
To be fair to you, okay, and you have we work with craftspeople, but I'll go back that, you know, you've your own family business, you're an IT expert, and you're a digital marketing strategist. So I'm not going to expect that you're going to be a guru on craft and design products and websites in other countries. So this is something that I will take up everyone later, because I mean I have some research on that, and we're building our research on that. You know, so that's something that we will revisit. Now I have some useful comments here on yes, from Owen. We have a note on the trading online voucher. He's saying be careful of getting custom plugin or application work. It's fine when you're funded initially, but chances are in the following months, years, you will from time to time need the plug-in updated, okay, fair enough, to meet new requirements, etc. And this could cost significant money when you have no funding. Okay, Deirdre, you did discuss that one.
Now, yeah, it does depend on the particular type of app or plugin. So if you go anyway, like through a customization process where somebody codes a website directly for you, any changes or updates or integrations to that is going to be a costly process. For platforms like Shopify or WordPress, there are already a marketplace. I think there are apps in Shopify and there are plugins in WordPress. So there's a marketplace for those plugins. Somebody else has gone to the trouble of developing that functionality for you. And Shopify is a monthly subscription to sign in. I think they'll give you maybe 3 options for free. And then if you want to apply it to more, like from a functionality point of view, obviously it depends on the app. You'll need to opt in and you'll need to make a purchase or subscribe to that. With WordPress, it does depend. There's an awful lot that's available for free. Sometimes they'll give you a limited functionality for free and then you have to engage and buy to upgrade. But those plugins or additional, there's no guarantee that they will be continued. I would recommend that you keep an eye on how many active installs or downloads that you have. If it's a very popular app or plugin and it's pre-made, you'll have like an app store for all the world. Just make sure that there's a high number of downloads and you know, installs as such, because then you know that actually all of the kinks have been ironed out. It's a reliable plugin, it works well. So there's some tips there, but if you do go into that third space where you're customizing or building something uniquely or bespoke to you, it's costly. Again, fine when you have the initial funding, but for any changes on an ongoing basis, then it's something that you'll need to be careful of. Okay.
Quick comment in here, keep your website simple and focused. Okay, this is one that comes up really regularly. Did you have an opinion on it? Is it important or necessary to have .com and .uk domains, or as well as .ie?
I'd probably base a decision or strategy like that on research. So I'd actually see who are my customers, who are my targets, where are they in those countries, then potentially they might identify quicker with .co.uk or .com. But again, if you're distinguishing yourself as an Irish brand and you're reaching an international market, you know, a .ie domain might be exactly what you're looking for. Generally speaking, those domain costs are low, definitely for the first year. But if for every domain that you get, you can set it up and point it to just your existing website. But per domain per year, you know, that will grow to be maybe 20 to 25 euros per year. So if that's acceptable cost and you can see that there's a valid reason for it from your market or target audience, then I'd absolutely consider it.
Okay, we have here, someone's been using PayPal for a long time and they find it very good. If I run into a problem, i.e. non-arrival of an item, I've got my money back more than once. Are there other platforms as good?
They offer most of the payment methods. Like, I love PayPal, it's been around a long time. Stripe was actually developed by those brothers from Limerick who are making a mint now in Silicon Valley. So a lot of them will offer similar type of payment protection, both for retailer and for customer. So just what you do need to bear in mind are the costs and the functionality. So Stripe will work directly from your system, your website itself, so your customer doesn't need to leave. So those would be predominantly the two that I would be most familiar with. Apple Pay is another option as well. But in general terms, they protect you both from a transaction point of view, whereby you have a resolution center built in, and from a security point of view. So I could recommend those three because those are the ones that I have the most experience with. Yeah.
Okay, I have another question here that technically I don't know the answer to, but I'll definitely look into it for you on the sequence. Someone has just been accepted for the Trading Online voucher. They want to know, can they still get mentoring?
Yes.
You can, even though you've been accepted. Okay, right.
So it varies from county to county. I work across 4. Yeah, so but in general, even if you've completed your application form and it needs extra work, they'll actually give you the feedback. And if you need a mentoring assignment specifically in relation to your Trading Online, you can absolutely apply. But there's 12 different lots that you can apply for mentoring. There's a lot of funding for free at the moment and on an ongoing basis. There's a very small fee that you pay. I think it's heavily subsidized. Maybe they pay 75% of the cost. So you can apply for mentoring in any of the 12 lots and just give a brief description of what your needs are, and they'll assign you a mentoring session. So they're very, very willing to help, no matter what stage of the process you're on. So if it was the case that you need advice just getting your social media site set up, you can talk to somebody and they'll talk you through what you need to consider there, or actually give you step-by-step help in what action you need to take. You can talk about e-commerce, you can talk about digital marketing strategy, you can talk about finance or tax, so it's a really great support service. They're more than willing to give you that help.
They really are. I mean, my initial reaction would be yes, absolutely. They will help, but for that person, I'm just to remind you, I'm sticking my email down there. So if they let me know which Leo which they need, I can actually make direct contact for them. Perfect. About this, which I think would be useful. Now, what I will say is, last week in our webinar, MailChimp came up, and yes, okay, and there are lots of people interested in a workshop and a whole series of questions of that. So what I'm thinking and brewing in my head here is, if I were to arrange a webinar where our speaker from last week, say Jane Manzar, and yourself were to take Q&As, I think that would be very interesting. I think it would be very useful, and it could be a bit of fun as well. That we'd have 40 to 45 minutes of Q&As that everybody, and I do it for Christmas, something that everybody stores up their Q&As that they have over a certain period of time, and that we just spend time going through them. Yep.
Great idea. Sorry, Emer, I just see a question here. Somebody's asking me my opinion of Wix.
Sorry, yes, that up there. Well done.
Yeah.
From Siobhan.
Wix is a good option. It's kind of cheap and cheerful, very easy to get started out on. Lots of people work and conduct e-commerce on that space and are perfectly happy with it. So if your services or products are limited and you just want to integrate, we'll say, PayPal payment methods through your Wix platform, they do offer e-commerce. Absolutely a good starting point. From a usability point of view, it can sometimes be glitchy. So that's something to bear in mind, just from a design and functionality point of view. And you may not always have all of the e-commerce tools available to you that you might need into the future. So I spoke to somebody just last week, and they had gotten the business continuity voucher back in March, and they set up a website and actually chose Wix, even though WordPress had been recommended. And now it's 6 months later, and they need to add additional e-commerce functionality, and Wix can't do it for them, so they're going to have to change and move. Now it's not lost costs, because they've had to develop branding and content and establish themselves on that platform. But unfortunately, like for him, he let the urgent create the important, and now that he wants to engage more fully in e-commerce and digital strategy, he doesn't have the options that he needs on the platform he chose. So if you're happy to just get trading online, very simple product sales, bang, bang, and you're done. Wix is a good option. It's cost effective, it's very easy. It's kind of what you see is what you get. It's a very easy option for you. But if at any point in the future you think you're going to need more comprehensive e-commerce or marketing tools, you know, there might be a better option for you.
Okay, that sounds great. That's been very comprehensive today. I think I've covered all of the questions. There's someone would like your email address. Now, the presenters are very happy to answer questions, but Deirdre, would you like to give your email address, or do you want to go through me, or?
Yeah, no, I've no problem. I can. I'll pop it in.
You're going to put it in the chat.
I'll just pop it into the chat. Yeah.
And I mean, I know everyone will be very respectful of that, and we will do our day when we'll have the Q&As, which everyone can feed into.
Perfect. Okay, that's gone in there. I'll just double check my spelling.
Yeah, that's
if anybody has any inquiries, or if you'd like to contact me, just drop me in an email. I will. Sometimes I may be in a clinic. If I don't get back to you like that day, it will definitely be the following morning. I'll get back to you as soon as humanly possible. But you can pop in any questions or queries you have.
That's very kind of you. And as I was saying, you know, if we have that forum where I have yourself and Jane, you know, if people have questions beforehand that they can send to you, you know, it'll allow you time to percolate them and do some research. Yeah,
for sure.
So I'll aim for a Thursday before Christmas, you know, so we'll have a webinar on a Wednesday, and then we'll do that workshop on a Thursday. So
perfect.
If that suits everyone. So listen, we had a very big crowd today, and I'd like to thank everyone for their time and their attention today, and we will do that with Jane and Deirdre coming up before Christmas. So thank you so much, Deirdre.
Perfect.
And we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a million. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye. Oh, I've just got another. Okay, I have that person. That person was just sending me in their detail for the mentoring question. Okay, everyone. Bye, and thank you.